start with a few introductory words here about David Baker. He's a Taft research professor for this order, so we have to thank Taft for allowing him to be here, facilitating and all that. He's a resident in this building upstairs. But basically, background information is David received his BA honors degree in England at the University of Sheffield in history and politics. So he's got a historical kind of, side to him. And then he went on to get the PhD at Sheffield in 1982. He joined Warwick University after teaching at Sheffield and Nottingham Trent. And Warwick is one of the top 3 political science departments in the United Kingdom, largely. And but I want to point out also he's got 2 books, one on the ideology of fascism, and the other one is on Britain's approach to the European integration project. He's also published extensively in terms of journal publications on political parties and political economy in Britain. And he's, meanwhile, while doing that, he has done this thinking and writing about fascism. And he's actually sitting on several hundred pages of work on fascism, which will eventuate soon in this book. He's also the recipient of over what I calculate to be $1 million of research funds over a period from '94 through 2007. And when he retired then from Warwick, he moved to Bath, which is a beautiful city. It's the 3rd most popular tourist attraction in the United Kingdom. And of course you can go there to see the Roman baths, or the Abbey if you want, or just enjoy the little side streets and the medieval settings and so on. It's where the Georgian buildings. It's a fantastic place. But I guess he chose it because it was so wonderful, a sort of intellectual place. But he went there to develop a career in as a what he calls new media fine artist and a fine art photographer. And so he's this, just to let you know, he's not just a political scientist, he's also this artist, and he's got these web pages where you can go on and look at his art and purchase them. Okay, so while he's living in Bath, he's also co-convener of the fine art exhibitions at a sort of a mini university there called the Bath World Scientific and Literary Institution, which is really a super kind of organization there that the people in Bath maintain. And he also provides architectural and documentary photography for the Bath Abbey, very historic church. Nonetheless, he hasn't abandoned his scholarship. He's working on books now on the history, or maybe better put, interpretation of political economy, reinterpretation of the meaning of political economy. And also he's working on this book on the political economy of fascism. So he comes to us today having spent a lot of time working on those projects while he's here, but also having developed the talk for today, which is entitled Markets Against Democracy, the Political Economy of the Tea Party Movement. So I take great pleasure in introducing you to Professor David Baker.
Thanks, John. Okay, well, I've been working on fascism for about 30 years, but I couldn't get research grants for it, so most of my career, my preferment, came from working on the Conservative Party in Europe, where you could get grants. Having retired, I'm able to go back to looking at the far right or the right in general. I've always studied the right, the EU and the Conservative attitudes towards it, what I got most of the grants for. But I've gone back to studying it. I'm fascinated by the far right and by populism as well. They're not quite so far right. And so I put them together here with my interest in political economy. So, Tea Party, persecuted majority. Most Americans are really Tea Partyites, and those that are standing up at the moment are being persecuted by the liberal media. Poisonous movement. hideous outgrowth of populism in American society based on prejudice, maybe even the most dangerous kind, racial prejudice? Well, we'll come back to that. But why markets against democracy? The goal of the Tea Party is to achieve a decisive and irreversible increase in the balance of power in the US in favour of free markets relative to the state. Markets are going to be used against the existing socialised democracy. So this could have been renamed Markets Against Socialised Democracy. But it has a wider meaning, as I'll show about now. This lecture will also consider the impact of this fundamental position on the workings of the pluralist system of democracy in the US. Political economy. Understood by me to study the interface between markets and states and societies, civil society, assess how power relations dictate particular economic structures and outcomes. So I do believe in power, so I'm clearly not an economist. I don't set power in parentheses outside my models and then run them to find how things work. I think that works for microeconomics. As soon as economists stray into macroeconomics, I find it quite funny. That, of course, is why the Queen asked the LSE head when she came, why didn't all these economists see, at the LSE, see the forthcoming crash? I could have told her. Two issues of political economy and one of democracy are central focus here. First of all, the political economy of the Tea Party movement, what political economy views as it had. Secondary, the wider impact of the movement on the present and future political economy of the great United States economy. And also the impact of the Tea Party on the ability of pluralist democracy to function as it has in the past in the US. Dahls and Charles Lindblom championed polyarchy, or the pluralistic view of political elites and governance in the 50s and 60s. That is, no single monolithic elite controls the governance of society, rather a series of specialised elites compete in elections and markets and bargain with one another for control, and also in office. Fierce but peaceful competition takes place and compromise occurs between elites in politics and the marketplace that drives free market democracy and allows it to thrive. This is the Dahlian model. Lindblom broke away, saw shortcomings in polyarchy, and regards democratic governance, with regards to democratic governance. The best known work, as I say, is Politics and Markets in 1977. Lindblom noted the privileged position of business within polyarchy, and Dahl, to some degree, moved over to the position that polyarchy wasn't quite so perfect later on. Right, we'll come back to that later. The new right, then. Basically, I'm going to use the new right as the context within which the Tea Party rises. They haven't risen within the context of the Christian right, they've risen within the new right in the sense of the economic model conservatives. Grover Norquist, as I'm sure you all know, wants to reduce governments down to the scale where you can drag it into the bathroom and drown it in a bathtub. That's how fundamental he is. That's an exclusively, very exclusively, negative definition of freedom. Freedom from restraint. The classic definition, freedom from restraint. I want to be free from the government. This is against the long-running positive freedom idea to achieve national goals by enhancing the capacity of liberty, including markets, that was included in the positive idea, through public means. The so-called socialised democracy, viewed by Norquist and others as a form of totalitarian communism or Nazism. Free markets and democracy. Is there a natural link? Well, we could have a whole lecture about this, 100 lectures, we could fill a library. Markets are apolitical and amoral. I will agree with economists on that. Markets pre-existed democracy, they functioned with slavery, they operate under authoritarianism in China today, and they operated in Nazi Germany. The Nazi Germans built plants and then privatized them. Daimler-Benz was forced to buy the private factory, the factory built by the Nazi state, forced to buy by the Nazis in Nazi Germany. The slums of India and the favelas of Sao Paulo, I've seen the Indian ones in all the three great cities, are non-socialized free market societies in democratic countries. They're full of